Good evening, dear listener, and welcome back. Welcome, once more, to the quiet corner of the night where stories drift like gentle smoke from an ancient forge, and where old myths glow with a sleepy, shimmering light. Welcome back, sleepless historian, to another long journey through time, crafted with slow patience, for rest, for comfort, and for the pleasure of learning while the body settles and the mind softens, like metal warming in the fire. Tonight, we travel to Olympus and to the deep places beneath to follow the life and work of one of the most fascinating figures in all of ancient mythology. Slow your breathing, settle into whatever place brings you comfort, and let your mind wander through misted mountains and glowing embers. Tonight's subject is Hephaestus, the god of fire, the god of the forge, the god of invention and patience and creation. Among all the shining forms of the Olympian gods, he is perhaps the most human, the most complex, the most wounded, and the most resilient. His story is one of rejection and return, of exile and acceptance, of falling from the highest sky and rising again with the force of determination and skill. It is a story of shimmering metal, of glowing coals, of rhythmic hammers and slow, careful hands shaping impossibly beautiful things. We will begin with his birth, his fall from Olympus, and the years he spent in the quiet embrace of the sea, cared for by gentle goddesses who recognized his value when the heavens did not. From there, we will walk slowly to the underwater forge where he first discovered his gifts, and then onward to his triumphant return among the gods. We will see palaces and weapons, strange living machines and golden wonders, shields that tell stories within stories, and delicate jewelry that catches the sunlight of eternity. Over the next few hours, we will explore myths and meanings, rituals and temples, the hiss of volcanic vents, and a sacred fire that burns wherever people gather around craft, work, and warmth. As always, I would love to know where in the world you're listening from. Perhaps it is late in the evening and the lights are dim. Perhaps you're easing into sleep after a long day. Perhaps you are watching the slow movement of moonlight across the wall, or you're resting on a quiet pillow with the weight of blankets holding you gently. Wherever you are, and however this finds you, I am glad you are here. There is no rush. This will be a long journey designed for rest. So, dear listener, get comfortable. Let your body settle. Find a warm, peaceful position, as if preparing to fall asleep beside a softly glowing hearth. This is boring history for sleep, a calm and detailed exploration where the rhythms of ancient stories are shaped for gentle dreaming. Before we begin, a small reminder. This channel, Dozenist, is an entertainment channel. We try to be accurate, and we love research, but stories of long ago are full of contradictions, gaps, and mysteries. There may be details that are uncertain or interpretations that shift with time. These stories are not meant for exams or scholarly tests, but simply as a soothing and educational companion in the night. So relax, breathe deeply, let the world become quiet. The fire is warm, the forge is ready, and now, dear listener, let us begin. Imagine, if you will, the early days of Olympus. The sky is vast and clear. The peaks of the mountain are sharp and cold. The gods walk in halls of marble and gold, surrounded by white clouds that drift like smoke from a slow-burning fire. Among them is Hera, queen of the heavens, proud and powerful. And in some stories, she looks upon the newborn gods and finds that she alone has not created a child without the help of her royal husband. In some versions, she conceives Hephaestus in anger or jealousy, determined to produce a child of her own, a child formed only from her will. When the baby arrives, he is not as she expected. The myths say he is imperfect. Perhaps his foot is twisted. Perhaps his body is bent. Perhaps his face is not symmetrical like the glittering god she knows. The reason does not matter, because in the stories, Hera looks upon him and feels disappointment, and in that moment of cold divinity, she casts him away. Picture that scene. The white clouds part. A child falls through the endless sky. There is no sound, or perhaps only the faint whistle of air passing his small body as he tumbles down, down, down from the shining heights of Olympus, far beneath the judgment of the gods. Some say Zeus threw him. Others say Hera alone. Myths contradict as they so often do, but the fall remains. Down through the bright air, down past the high peaks, down toward the restless sea. Far below, the waves shimmer like hammered bronze. The light of the sun scatters on their surface. When he strikes the water, he disappears beneath, vanishing among swirling currents and drifting shadows, until he comes to rest in a hidden grotto deep beneath the sea. There, among the quiet world of coral and shells, two kindly goddesses find him. Their names are Thetis and Eurynomy. They are gentle, and they do not see imperfection. They see potential. They see a child who has fallen from the sky, and they gather him into their arms and carry him to their home. For years, he grows there. He grows without judgment, without scorn, without the harsh gaze of gods and goddesses. He grows in the hush of the underwater world, where light is filtered through dancing waves, where the sound of the ocean is constant and soothing. Imagine those long days, a child playing among seaweed and fish, a boy who watches bubbles rise, a boy who collects stones and shells and wonders what he can make. The grotto is shadowy and cool. It smells of salt and sand. There is darkness in the deep places, but also light, dappling through the entrance in flickering silver beams. He begins to build things. Simple things at first. Pebbles stacked like towers. Strands of seaweed woven into shapes. Branches of driftwood lashed together to form something. Then, one day, a spark. It is difficult to know where the spark comes from in this quiet place beneath the sea, but myth does not worry about details. Myth simply says that Hephaestus discovers fire, even in this impossible place. Perhaps it is divine fire. Perhaps it is the heat of creation burning in his hands. Perhaps it is only a metaphor, but it becomes real. And with fire comes metal, bronze, gold, iron. He experiments. He shapes. He learns. Thetis and Eurynomy watch with patient wonder as he grows into a young craftsman. He makes jewelry for them, delicate necklaces of gleaming metal, bracelets shaped like serpents, filigree work so fine it seems woven from light. They adorn themselves, and they smile, and they encourage him. He becomes stronger, his arms marked by the slow rhythm of work. Push, pull, hammer, bend, shape. The grotto becomes a forge. The air grows warm. Sparks fly. Steam rises when drops of seawater strike the glowing metal. Outside, The sea continues its eternal movement. Inside, the boy who fell becomes the god of creation. He grows into a man with strong hands, scarred from the heat, a man with quiet eyes that have seen rejection and kindness, both. Time passes, though gods measure time differently than we do. At some moment, a thought forms within him, a gift. He decides to send something back to Olympus. From gold and bronze, from love and memory, he crafts a throne for Hera. It is beautiful, graceful, shimmering like sunlight on a calm sea. But the throne holds a secret. When Hera sits upon it, she cannot rise. We will return to that moment, many hours from now, when we reach his return to Olympus. For now, we dwell beneath the waves. Picture the grotto. Cool shadows, warm sparks, gentle drip of water. Hephaestus works in silence. Creatures of the sea drift past, curious, untroubled. The goddesses move like silver fish, watching their adopted son create wonders. He learns patience. He learns focus. He learns that work can become love. And in the rhythm of forging, something else forms in him. Identity. Not the identity forced upon him by the gods who cast him away, but the identity he shapes himself, slowly, steadily, strike by strike, creation by creation. Down here, he is not the imperfect child. He is not the god who fell. He is simply the one who makes things. In the deepest quiet of the sea, where light becomes dreamlike and time flows like a slow current, Hephaestus becomes a god. He becomes fire. He becomes forge. He becomes creation. And the world above does not know it yet. But a craftsman is coming, a forge master whose work will shape history, mythology, and imagination for thousands of years. But that, dear listener, is a story that continues in our next section. The sea is a world of its own. It is vast. It is mysterious. It is ever-changing, yet always the same. Beneath the surface, the light bends and sways, soft and shimmering, as if every beam were a strand of golden fabric drifting on an invisible current. It is in this world of dim radiance and steady rhythm that Hephaestus grows into himself. The grotto where he lives is half cave, half palace. The walls are rough stone, dark and ancient, but they are covered with treasures that only a quiet god could make. Bracelets rest on shelves of coral. Tiny silver cups wait on smooth ledges. Intricate tools hang from hooks shaped like the curved arms of octopuses. Everything here is useful, and everything is beautiful. Thetis and Eurynomy watch him with affectionate patience. They do not hurry him. They speak calmly, gently. When they move, their garments of sea silk flow like currents, and when they smile, it is with the deep warmth of caretakers who expect nothing in return. Time passes in the way it does for immortals, slowly and yet all at once. Hephaestus begins to build his forge. He finds a hollow in the stone where heat can gather. He experiments with volcanic rock, with strange metals that gleam like moonlight, with shells that curl and glisten. And from these materials, he constructs something impossible. A furnace, a real furnace. Beneath the sea, no mortal could imagine its workings, and no mortal needs to. The myth simply says he learned how to make fire live beneath the water. Perhaps it is divine fire. Perhaps it is the fire of creation. Whatever its source, It flickers in the shadows, and the warmth spreads gently, steadily, until the grotto becomes a place of golden glow. He makes tools, hammers with smooth wood handles, chisels that gleam, tongs that feel perfectly weighted in his hands. He makes bellows that do not require air, yet breathe. He makes an anvil of shining metal, heavy enough for a god. And when he begins to work, the world becomes quiet. Hammer meets metal. Steam rises. Sparks drift upward like tiny stars that never go out. The sea presses against the outer walls, eternal and heavy, but inside, the space feels sheltered, protected by water and stone. Outside, fish glide past in schools of silver. Crabs scuttle across the sand. The sound of the waves is distant, muffled like a memory. Inside, the steady rhythm of his work becomes the heartbeat of the grotto. He finds joy in repetition. He finds peace in patience. Every strike shapes something. Every strike brings form from formlessness. Every strike is an echo of purpose. He is alone, yet not lonely. He is apart from Olympus, yet he is not forgotten by the ocean. Sometimes, in the evenings, when the forge glows and the walls shine with golden reflections, Thetis sits beside him. She listens to the sound of the hammer, and she remembers the future, for she is a goddess who knows many things. She tells him stories, not of Olympus, but of the sea. She describes palaces of pearl, deep trenches where ancient creatures sleep, and long journeys across the waves where the horizon always moves away, no matter how fast one sails. Hephaestus listens. Her voice is like water on stone, gentle, constant, soothing. Eurynomé teaches him another kind of art. She taught him weaving, not with thread, but with wire, with metal softened by fire. From her, he learns patterns. From her, he learns patience. She stands beside him as he shapes golden filaments into delicate chains that could slip through the eye of a needle. Her hands guide his. Her eyes are calm. Together, the three of them create beauty in a place where no one else sees. It is a quiet paradise hidden from the world. There are sea lamps glowing with a soft blue light. There are smooth stones warmed by the forge. There are shadows that dance on the walls when he works late into the night. Shadows that look like delicate figures moving in ancient stories. Sometimes he makes objects simply for the pleasure of making them. Small things. Birds with wings that shimmer. Tiny horses with hooves of bronze. Hundreds of miniature fish, each one perfect, as if they could swim. He arranges them on shelves where they gather dust, though the dust is not really dust, but fine sand from the sea. Days pass. Years pass, centuries, perhaps, though the sea keeps no calendar. And then, one morning, when the forge is silent and the water outside is calm, a thought rises in him like a slow bubble. He remembers Olympus. He remembers the world above. He remembers his mother. Hephaestus decides to send her a gift. It is a throne of gold and bronze. A throne so beautiful that even the gods might fall silent when they see it. He works on it for a long time. The shape is elegant, the lines smooth. It shines when the light touches it. There are carvings on the legs. Vines, leaves, flowers, creatures of the sky and sea. The seat is shaped to perfection, cool and comfortable, as if made for a queen. But within the throne, he hides a secret, a hidden mechanism, a trap When the person who sits upon it tries to rise, the throne will hold them fast. He does not do this from malice. He does it from something quieter, something deeper, a desire to be seen, a desire to be acknowledged. To send this gift, he must first send it to the gods above. He crafts a chest of shining metal. He engraves it carefully. He seals the throne within. There is no hurry. There is no impatience. He waits for the right moment. And when the tides are calm, when the moon is high, when the sea is still, he sends the chest up from the grotto to the surface, where it floats, gleaming like treasure. Perhaps a dolphin nudges it. Perhaps a wave carries it. Perhaps a god notices it drifting. Time passes, but eventually the gift reaches Olympus. There is curiosity. There is wonder. There is delight. Hera sees the throne and admires it. She calls it beautiful. She calls it perfect. She sits upon it, and she cannot rise. But that, dear listener, is another turning point in this story. We will return to it soon, when Hephaestus is called back to Olympus, when the gods discover that the child they cast away has become a master of wonders. For now, we remain beneath the waves. In the grotto, the forge glows. The tools hang on their hooks. The air is warm. The sea presses gently against the outer walls, ever patient, ever eternal. Hephaestus returns to his work. He makes more things, objects of beauty, objects of purpose. He creates because creation brings him peace. And the underwater forge becomes a sanctuary, a place of quiet fire in a world of shifting water. Outside, the sea stretches endlessly. Inside, he shapes wonders. The world above does not yet know what he has become, but soon they will. And when they do, the rhythm of hammers and the glow of molten metal will follow him to the heights of Olympus. But that story begins in our next section. Far above the quiet world of the sea, Olympus shines. Its peaks are wrapped in pale clouds. Its halls are gleaming, made of stone that catches every drop of sunlight and turns it into gold. The gods walk there, and their footsteps echo in corridors lined with columns as white as winter snow. It is in this high place that Hera sits upon her new throne. When it first arrived, the gods admired it. They marveled at its smooth lines, at the intricacy of its carvings, at the shimmering gleam of the metal. No one could deny that it was a masterpiece. Hera, curious and proud, lowered herself onto it with regal grace. The moment her weight settled, the mechanism within the throne shifted and the metal tightened around her. She tried to rise, but she could not. The throne held her fast. At first, she thought it might be some strange stiffness. She tried again, gently, then firmly, but her limbs could not move from the shining seat. Then she realized she was trapped. In some versions of the myth, she is outraged. In others, she is fearful. In others still, she tries not to show her discomfort, for a queen must remain composed. The gods gather around her. They tug at the throne. They pry at the joints. They call upon strength and cunning. But nothing frees her from the golden seat. There is only one who knows how to unlock it. Only one who understands the secret mechanisms. Only one who can release her. Hephaestus. The gods look at one another. Some remember the child who was cast away. Some did not know him at all. They send messengers. They send demands. They send requests. But no answer returns. Hephaestus remains beneath the sea, working in his grotto, surrounded by the glow of his forge, unaware or unconcerned with the commotion above. Eventually, another god must go to him personally. Some myths say Hermes goes, others say Apollo, but the stories most frequently tell of Dionysus. Dionysus, the god of wine and wildness, of joy and madness, of music and ecstasy, makes his way down from the heights, across the waves, to find the forge master below. Picture him, a traveler with ivy in his hair, soft laughter on his lips, bare feet that tread lightly on the surface of the sea, as if the water were merely another road. He approaches the entrance of the grotto and calls out to Hephaestus. Inside, the hammering stops. The glow dims. Hephaestus emerges from the shadows, his clothing marked by soot, his hands strong from labor. Dionysus greets him with a smile. He brings wine. He brings companionship. He brings a promise, spoken gently, of return and recognition. There is no anger between them, no tension, no threat, only a quiet invitation. The two gods sit together and drink. The wine is rich and warming. It tastes of grapes and sunlight, of summer fields and gentle afternoons. Perhaps Hephaestus laughs for the first time in many years. Perhaps he remembers the sound of voices other than his own. Slowly, with patience, Dionysus convinces him to return. Hephaestus packs his tools. He cleans his forge, though he knows he will come back to it someday. He embraces Thetis and Eurynomy, the goddesses who raised him, who saw him when no one else did, who gave him kindness in a world that can be unkind. Then he climbs onto a donkey. This detail survives in many versions of the myth. Hephaestus does not return in a chariot of gold, nor on the back of a winged steed. He returns slowly on a humble animal, its hooves clopping gently on the path. Dionysus walks beside him. The sea fades behind them. The cliffs rise. The mountain grows. Step by step, they ascend toward Olympus. The journey is unhurried. They travel through forests where leaves whisper in the wind. They cross stony slopes where the air is cool and thin. They pass rivers that laugh over smooth stones. The donkey walks steadily. Hephaestus holds the reins lightly. Dionysus hums a song. When at last they reach the shining gates, the gods are waiting. They stand in a broad circle, their garments flowing in the wind, their eyes watchful. Hephaestus dismounts. He looks at them, not with fear but with calm. He approaches the throne where Hera sits. She meets his gaze, perhaps with regret, perhaps with relief. He places his hand upon the mechanism. He speaks a word, or presses a catch, or simply wills it so. The throne releases her. The metal softens. The queen stands. In that moment, something quiet passes between them. No apology is recorded in the myths. No forgiveness is spoken aloud. But the gods welcome him. They invite him to stay. Hephaestus steps into their halls as one of them. He takes his place among the immortals, not as the rejected child, but as a master craftsman. A workshop is given to him. Some say it lies on the slopes of the mountain, where smoke can rise into the sky. Others say it is deep within the mountain, where fire glows like a beating heart. Still others say he builds many forges scattered across Olympus, each one filled with tools and wonders. Wherever it stands, the workshop becomes his sanctuary. Inside, The walls echo with the steady rhythm of creation. Hammer meets metal. Sparks scatter like stars. Steam rises when water touches the hot iron. Servants of bronze, crafted by Hephaestus himself, move through the space. They are strong, silent, capable. They carry tools. They hold the bellows. They walk with the grace of machines that know no fatigue. The gods come to him with requests. Zeus asks for thrones and scepters. Athena asks for weapons that are perfectly balanced. Aphrodite, shimmering with beauty, wears jewelry forged by his hand. Hermes receives winged sandals and a shining helmet. Heroes from the mortal world will one day come, seeking armor and shields. Hephaestus works. He works patiently, tirelessly, joyfully. In the warm glow of the forge, he finds belonging. He finds purpose. He finds peace. The gods admire his creations. They value his skill. They respect the quiet power of his hands. No one speaks of the fall. No one speaks of rejection. He stands among them now as their equal, not because of birthright, but because of what he can make. Imagine the workshop. The air is warm. The stone floor is smooth. Tools hang in perfect order. Golden light flickers in every corner. There are pieces of metal waiting to be shaped. There are designs sketched on thin sheets. There are unfinished works that will become wonders. And there, in the center of it all, is Hephaestus. Strong arms, steady gaze, quiet concentration. He lifts the hammer. He brings it down. A sound rings through the halls of Olympus, a sound like the heartbeat of creation. The world is changing, not through war or thunder, but through fire and patience and art. And that, dear listener, is how the god who fell became the divine smith of Olympus. In the next section, we will turn from his return to the gods to the matters of the heart, his marriage, his love, and the quiet sorrows that follow. The forge burns quietly. Its light is steady. Its warmth spreads through the workshop as Hephaestus works, shaping metal into forms that please the eyes of gods and mortals alike. Hammer strikes metal, and in each ringing note there is calm, there is patience, there is purpose. In time, the gods decide that he should not work alone forever. They decide he should have a wife. There is a moment, gentle and unhurried, when the gods look upon the radiant beauty of Aphrodite, and they look upon the quiet skill of Hephaestus, and they see that the union of beauty and craft might bring harmony to Olympus. Whether this arrangement is made by authority or by affection is uncertain. The storytellers speak in different voices. Some say Zeus grants Aphrodite to Hephaestus as a reward. Others say it is Hera's wish. Still others whisper that no one consulted Aphrodite at all. But the wedding is held. It is a celebration. The gods feast. The air is filled with music, though none of it rises above a restful hum. Garlands of flowers hang from every column. Wine is poured, sweet and fragrant, from golden vessels forged in Hephaestus' workshop. At the center of the gathering stand the bride and groom. Hephaestus, with his strong hands and work-worn frame, stands with quiet dignity, watching the crowd with eyes that are used to observing rather than demanding attention. Aphrodite glows beside him, a being of impossible beauty, her form radiant in the soft light of Olympus. When she moves, her garments whisper like silk in a breeze. When she smiles, the air seems to grow warmer. wherever she goes. The gods turn their eyes toward her, as if drawn by a gentle gravity. And so they are joined, beauty and craft, fire and desire. Two gods, each powerful in their own way, yet separated by a distance that cannot be crossed easily. The distance between admiration and love. At first, there is peace. Hephaestus forges jewelry for his wife, delicate chains that lie like threads of morning sunlight across her skin, earrings shaped like crescent moons, bracelets as fine as spider silk, a belt of gold that seems almost alive when it moves. He gives these gifts without expectation. Aphrodite accepts them with grace. There are moments when she stands in the doorway of the forge, the warm light touching her face, and she watches the rhythm of his work. There is respect between them, a quiet respect, but beneath it runs a river of unspoken longing and unfulfilled desire. For beauty is admired by all, and love is not easily given when the heart wanders elsewhere. In the shadows of Olympus, another figure waits. Ares, god of war, strong, bold, restless. Where Hephaestus is patient, Ares is impulsive. Where Hephaestus values craft, Ares values conflict. Where Hephaestus works in quiet, Ares lives in clamor. Ares looks upon Aphrodite, and her beauty kindles something fierce in him. Their attraction grows like wildfire, sudden and consuming. And so, when the sun sinks and the halls grow quiet, when the forge is dark and the hearth fires are low, Aphrodite and Ares meet. Their meetings are whispered, hidden, soft-footed. The palace of the gods is filled with rooms and corridors, and shadows gather in the corners where secrets can live. The lovers find places where the torches burn low, where the moon shines through open arches, where the breeze carries the scent of gardens and night-blooming flowers. Yet secrets rarely remain secret in the world of the gods. It is Helios, the sun god, who sees everything. From the sky, his eyes sweep over land and water, over cities and mountains, and over the shining roofs of Olympus. Nothing escapes his gaze. He watches the lovers. He sees them move toward each other in the darkness. He sees their whispers, their glances, their closeness. And one day, Helios tells Hephaestus, there is a moment, quiet and still, when the words fall like sparks into the forge of Hephaestus' heart. He feels them. He hears them. But he does not explode. He does not rage. Hephaestus is not a god of sudden violence. He is a god of creation. He responds with craft. In the silent hours of the night, he begins to weave metal. Thin as hair, fine as thread, stronger than anything in the world. A golden net. He weaves it with patient hands, each strand crossing and looping, forming a pattern so intricate it could be mistaken for lace. It shines with a soft glow, but when he sets it aside, the metal becomes invisible, unseen to the naked eye. Then he waits. Night falls. The palace sleeps. Aphrodite and Ares find each other, as they have before, in her chamber, in her bed. They speak softly. They lie together, unaware of what surrounds them. As they settle into the comfort of each other's arms, the net descends. It settles over them gently, like a woven shadow. They do not feel it until they try to move. The metal tightens. It holds. They are trapped. There is no pain, only stillness. Hephaestus calls upon the gods. One by one they gather. They stand around the bed where the lovers lie, held fast in invisible strands of golden thread. Some laugh, their voices echoing through the hall. Some look away, embarrassed. Some whisper to one another. The myths tell of laughter, but in this quiet, bedtime telling, we imagine something else. Not mockery, not cruelty, but a stillness, a moment of truth, a moment when beauty and war are revealed as fragile, as fallible, as human. Hephaestus does not raise his voice. He does not strike. He does not shout. He stands beside the bed, looking down at the figures who could not be faithful. In that silence, something shifts within him. He does not demand apology. He does not plead for love. He steps away. Some versions say he leaves Aphrodite. Others say she leaves him. In the myths, their union becomes a memory, a chapter in a long saga. What remains is dignity. Hephaestus returns to his forge. He stands among his tools. He breathes in the warm air. The net is folded. The lovers are free, and a hammer rises once more. He does not speak of betrayal again. He does not revisit the story. From this point forward, he devotes himself to creation, to the fire, to the steady rhythm that soothes his heart. The gods of Olympus continue their lives, with their passions and quarrels, their triumphs and mistakes, but Hephaestus becomes something else. Not the center of drama, not the figure of scandal. A presence of calm, a presence of work, a presence of purpose. In the glow of the forge, he finds peace. And in the next part of our journey, we will step closer to his greatest wonders. The divine creations that shaped myth and history, forged in fire, tempered in patience, and touched by the hands of a god. The forge glows like a captured sunset. Inside the workshop on Olympus, the air is always warm. There is a steady hum of heat, the soft whisper of bellows, the quiet crackle of coals. Shadows gather in corners, long and peaceful, while the walls shine with reflected light from metal and fire. This is where Hephaestus spends his days and nights, not in haste, but in the slow rhythm of work. Every project is a meditation. Every creation is deliberate. Every piece holds its own story. The gods of Olympus know that when they need something enduring, something perfect, something full of meaning, they go to the forge master. Hephaestus does not boast. He does not hurry. He listens. He considers. He shapes. The list of his creations is long and shimmering, like a necklace of jewels that catches the light at every turn. We will wander through them, one by one, like travelers moving through a gallery of wonders. Perhaps the most famous of all his works is a shield. Imagine it, round, broad, heavy gleaming, a world carved in metal. Homer describes it with reverence. Hephaestus forged not just armor, but an entire vision of existence. Cities of peace and war, fields where farmers plow the earth, dancers moving in circles, stars in the night, the ocean surrounding it all like a silver rim. When Achilles lifts it, he does not merely carry protection. He carries a story, a map of humanity, of life and death, etched into bronze and gold. The shield is heavy, but it is not burdensome. It rests comfortably on the hero's arm, balanced perfectly, a testament to hands that know how to shape weight as easily as beauty. Hephaestus works on it with care. He taps lightly, as if coaxing meaning from metal. He pauses often, studying the luminous surface, deciding how the next stroke will change everything. When it is finished, the shield glows as though it remembers the forge. It hums with quiet power. Achilles carries it into the world of men, and the gods watch. Hephaestus creates more than a single shield. He creates armor for gods and mortals alike. For Athena, he forges breastplates that shine like morning. For Heracles, he makes weapons that endure trials and labors. For countless heroes and countless tales, his workshops produce helmets, greaves, swords, each one made with the same patient love. These are not instruments of brutality. They are works of art. Smooth surfaces, clean lines, edges that reflect the sun, curves that embrace the body like a second skin. When warriors go to battle wearing his creations, they carry something more than protection. They carry a blessing, the blessing of craft. Hermes, the messenger god, comes to Hephaestus with a request. He wants shoes that can carry him quickly, lightly, across sky and sea, from mortal cities to divine halls. Hephaestus listens. He gathers materials: thin leather, bronze feathers, silver rivets. He shapes them into sandals that are impossibly graceful. The wings are delicate, but they are strong. They are made to move with the wind, not against it. When Hermes places them on his feet, he rises. He does not jump. He simply lifts, as though gravity has grown kind. The sandals feel like nothing at all, yet they carry him everywhere. Hephaestus also makes a helmet. Smooth, shining, narrow at the brow, widening at the crown. It fits perfectly. There is no weight, no discomfort. And so Hermes becomes the swiftest traveler, his ankles feathered with flight, his head crowned with metal that gleams in every light, while weapons and armor fill many songs. The workshop is also a place of beauty. Hephaestus makes delicate objects that hold no thread, only wonder. Necklaces that lie like rivers of gold, earrings shaped like stars, tiny clasps with patterns so fine they look woven from hair. Sometimes a goddess will stand in the doorway, watching him work. She will say nothing. He will say nothing. Only the hammer speaks. Only the metal sings. When the piece is finished, he sets it gently on a cloth, and she takes it away, smiling. There are stories of strange creations that walk and watch, though they are not alive. Hephaestus forges creatures of metal, dogs of bronze that guard the palace of King Alcinous, their eyes gleaming, their stance ready. They do not bark. They do not sleep. They simply stand, always alert, always present. Visitors pass through the gates, feeling their gaze. They do not know if these figures are statues or sentinels. Perhaps they are both. On the island of Crete, an enormous shape walks the shore, tall as a tower, strong as an ox. Its body gleams in the sunlight. Talos, a giant of bronze. Hephaestus forged him, and Zeus gave him to Europa, queen of the island. Talos circles the coastline 3 times each day. His footfalls shake the earth. His body glows with heat from within. He protects the island from invaders. When ships approach, he lifts boulders from the sand and throws them with impossible strength. The sea churns. The waves rise. From a distance, sailors see only a shape of light moving along the shore, and they steer away, whispering of a god who walks beside the sea. Talos is a marvel, a machine, a guardian. a creation of craft and fire. Not all his creations are made of metal. When Zeus wishes to punish humanity, he orders the gods to create a woman. Hephaestus shapes her from clay. He forms her with careful hands. He gives her body and limb. He shapes her face, smooth as ivory. He paints her eyes with a delicate touch. When she is finished, he steps back. She is not a statue. She is alive. The other gods give her gifts: beauty, music, wit, curiosity. She carries a vessel, sometimes called a jar, sometimes a box, that she must never open. But in time, she opens it. Out come troubles: sickness, sorrow, toil, grief. Yet one thing remains in the bottom, shining faintly: hope. Pandora is a myth of complexity. There is sadness, but there is also wonder. She is not created with malice. She is created with love for the art of making, the art of life. Hephaestus shapes her hands with tenderness. He pours his skill into every detail. Though the story becomes heavy, the act of creation is pure. Day after day, year after year, the forge glows. Smoke rises in thin columns. Sparks drift like tiny stars, disappearing before they land. The anvil rings with sound. Hephaestus works patiently, without hurry, without anger, without pride. Some nights, he sits outside the workshop, watching the sky. The moon rests above the horizon, pale and quiet. The wind cools his skin. He thinks of the grotto beneath the sea. He thinks of Thetis and Eurynomy. He thinks of falling and rising. But mostly, he thinks of work. The act of shaping metal is his comfort. The rhythm soothes him. The fire warms him. He does not ask for praise. The gods may admire his creations. Heroes may carry them into war. Stories may be told through centuries. But the joy is in the making, in the glow of the forge, in the sound of the hammer, in the steady pulse of creation. And so, in quiet halls, in luminous light, Hephaestus continues his eternal labor, shaping the world in subtle ways, crafting not glory, but endurance. His wonders endure. And in the next section, we will leave Olympus for a time, traveling across the ancient world to the places where people worship the god of fire and forge, where temples rose on volcanic shores, and where the scent of metal and smoke mingled with sea and wind. At the edges of the world, beyond the marble halls of Olympus, lay places of stone and fire where the earth itself seemed to breathe. If you travel slowly across the land, through olive groves and sunlit hills, you eventually reach places where the ground grows warm beneath your feet, where thin streams of smoke rise from cracks in the earth, and where the air carries the faint scent of sulfur and ash. These are the places where people believed Hephaestus worked, deep beneath the surface, shaping metal in hidden chambers of fire. The ancient Greeks built temples in these places, not grand palaces of polished stone, but quiet sanctuaries where the heat of earth and the devotion of human hands met. They brought offerings. They brought tools to be blessed. They brought prayers for skill, not prayers for victory, but for mastery, to strike the iron correctly, to shape the bronze without breaking it, to bring form from formlessness. Work was an act of reverence. If we journey north and east across the Aegean Sea, we reach Lemnos, an island shaped by wind and water, its coastline rugged, its hills covered in wild grasses that shift and ripple in the breeze. This island was sacred to Hephaestus. Here, according to many stories, he fell from Olympus when Hera cast him into the air. The people of Lemnos claim that he landed on their shores, that he came to them shaken and wounded, and that they cared for him. Whether this tale is myth or memory, the island keeps his name close to its heart. On Lemnos, the earth is warm beneath the surface. Volcanic fires once burned here. In the ancient world, smoke rose from the ground, and travelers could see glowing embers beneath the soil. In such places, the people built shrines, small buildings of stone, simple altars. Bowls were oil-burned, bronze tools laid upon the ground as offerings. The worship was not loud. There were no sweeping spectacles or thunderous proclamations. Instead, the rituals were quiet, like the god they honored. Craftsmen came here to seek blessing. Blacksmiths, bronze workers, makers of tools. They asked for strength in their arms, for steadiness in their hands, for patience in their work. They lit fires at dawn and watched the smoke drift upward, imagining that it carried their prayers into the sky. From Lemnos, let us travel further across the sparkling sea until we reach Sicily. There, the great mountain Etna rises from the landscape, its slopes wide and ancient, its summit often crowned with smoke. This mountain stood at the crossroads of myth. Beneath it, people believed Hephaestus kept his greatest forge. The ground rumbles here. The earth seems alive. Sometimes fire erupts from the mountain, red and roaring, and molten rock flows down the slopes in slow rivers of light. For the ancient Greeks, this was not destruction. It was creation. They believed that when the volcano roared, Hephaestus and his assistants, the Cyclopes, were at work. In the chambers beneath the mountain, the Cyclopes hammered metal upon anvils. Every strike sent tremors through the world above. Every spark became a plume of flame at the summit. The people below would look up and say, "He is working tonight." They imagined a cavern deep within the earth, lit by fire that never dies, where the god-shaped weapons for gods and heroes, and where the three great Cyclopes, Brontes, Steripes, and Argesh, moved with calm strength. The Cyclopes did not speak much. They worked. Hammer, bellows, fire, always fire. The rhythm of their labor was as steady as the heartbeat of the earth itself. Not all worship was tied to volcanoes. In cities, large and small, temples to Hephaestus stood near marketplaces, near workshops, near the places where people lived and worked. One of the most beautiful stands in Athens, near the Agora, a temple of marble, its columns tall and simple, its roof bearing the marks of time. Morning light touches the stone and turns it golden. Inside, there once stood statues of Hephaestus and Athena, both patrons of craft. Athena represented wisdom, planning, and design. Hephaestus represented labor, patience, and execution. Together, they embodied creation. Visitors to this temple did not come seeking victory in war or favor in love. They came seeking skill. They asked to learn. They asked to improve. They asked for the grace of steady hands and clear minds. These prayers were humble. These prayers were human. To make something well, to make something useful, to make something beautiful. In ancient homes, fire was sacred. Every hearth was a small shrine. At dawn, people kindled flames. They cooked their food. They warmed their hands. They lived by fire. And in every spark, they saw the presence of Hephaestus. The hearth was not fierce. It was gentle. It was constant. It was safe. Fire destroyed, yes, but more often it created. It softened metal. It warmed rooms. It lit dark nights. People learned to respect fire, not fear it. They learned to tend it, to guard it, to honor it. When a new house was built, the fire of the hearth was carried from an old one, flame passing from family to family, generation to generation, like an inheritance of warmth. In that small ritual, the god was present. Hephaestus was not the fire of destruction. He was the fire of home. To worship Hephaestus was to respect labor, not the labor of conquest, but the labor of creation. Smiths, potters, carpenters, builders, sculptors, they all looked to him. They knew that work was slow, that hands grew tired, that patience was necessary. They knew that mistakes happened, that metal cracked, that clay collapsed. And yet, they returned to their tools with quiet determination. Because to make something well is a form of devotion. In a world of gods who shouted and quarreled, who demanded sacrifice and stirred storms, Hephaestus stood apart. He did not ask for blood. He did not ask for fear. He asked for attention, for skill, for endurance. In that way, he was close to humanity, closer than many gods. When the sun set and the day's work was done, the blacksmith stayed behind. He raked the coals. He cleaned his hammers. He sat by the fire in silence. He listened to the crackle of embers. He watched them glow, and in that small circle of warmth, he felt the presence of the god, not as a figure of marble, not as a distant deity, but as a companion, a fellow craftsman. Fire touched metal. Metal became tools. Tools changed the world, from plows that cut the earth, to nails that held beams, to hinges that opened doors. Creation gave shape to life. And so, the worship of Hephaestus was not loud. It was not spectacular. It was simple. It was daily. It was quiet. It lived in the rhythm of work, in the glow of the forge, in the warmth of the hearth. The world of Olympus rises into mist. The forges fall quiet for a moment, as if the tools have been set aside and the fires banked to embers. In the gentle stillness, we look backward and forward at once. Hephaestus is a god, but his legacy is not only divine. It lives in every place where work is done with careful hands, and where creation is valued over conquest. To understand him, we must move slowly across time, stepping from ancient myth into the lives of real people. In towns and cities of ancient Greece, the smith was a respected figure. He stood at the center of his workshop, surrounded by heat, metal, dust, and tools. The air trembled with warmth from the forge. The floor was darkened by soot. The walls were streaked with smoke. He wore a leather apron. His arms were strong. His hands were scarred. But there was pride in his posture, because he made things that lasted. Plows to till the soil, nails to hold timbers, knives that could cut, armor that could protect. Every piece shaped by human hands carried a whisper of something older, something mythic. The idea that craft is sacred. When sparks rose from the iron, when the hammer struck, when metal changed shape beneath force and heat, the smith felt close to the god. Hephaestus was not just worshipped in temples. He was honored in every workshop where the fire glowed and the work was done with patience. Hephaestus's symbols were simple: the hammer, the anvil, the tongs, tools of creation, not symbols of war, not instruments of domination, but symbols of work. In a world filled with gods of thunder and sun, of storm and sea, Hephaestus's symbols were humble. They were tools that anyone could recognize. A blacksmith in Athens, shaping a horseshoe, would glance at his tools and feel a quiet kinship. A bronze worker in Lemnos, pounding hot metal into form, would think of the god. A potter at his wheel, turning clay with steady hands, would remember that creation is divine. The god was not distant. He was present in the everyday, in the scrape of metal, in the ring of iron, in the glow of hearthlight. In ancient Greece, craft was not considered lesser than thought. To shape with hands was not inferior to shaping with words. Athena was the goddess of wisdom. Hephaestus was the god of skill. Together, they built civilization. Wisdom designed, skill executed. When a sculptor carved marble into a form that seemed to breathe, he felt that he was touching something immortal. When a carpenter shaped wood, when a mason laid stone, when a shipwright bent planks into the hull of a vessel that would cross the sea, each of them worked under the quiet gaze of Hephaestus. The reward was not wealth or glory. The reward was mastery. There is a deep contentment that comes from making something well, from holding an object in your hand and feeling that it is solid, true, complete. Hephaestus embodied that feeling. It is easy to forget, among all the wonders, that Hephaestus was born imperfect. In many myths, he limped. His body was not like that of the other gods. He was cast out. He fell, and yet he rose. The Greeks understood this paradox. They understood that the most beautiful things are often born from struggle. That perfection is never as interesting as resilience. Hephaestus showed them that craft could become character, that skill could become identity, that strength could be found in patience. He did not fight with swords. He did not conquer with armies. He created, he shaped, he endured. And so, those who felt different, those who felt less than perfect, those who felt cast aside, could look to him and see possibility. The god who fell became the god who forged. That is a legacy of hope. Centuries passed. Empires rose and fell. Temples crumbled. Volcanoes cooled. Workshops turned to dust. But the idea remained. During the Roman era, Hephaestus became Vulcan, keeper of fire and forge, honored in rituals that echoed the respect given to craft. In medieval villages, blacksmiths worked at the heart of every town, their forges glowing red in the darkness, sparks flying like fireflies. People brought them horseshoes, broken tools, weapons to be repaired. They knew that the smith worked with mystery. That metal could be changed in fire. That iron could be tamed. In these places, stories lingered. They spoke of a god who shaped the earth, a god who lived beneath mountains, a god whose hammers echoed in the rumble of volcanoes. Even when the names changed, the essence remained. Even now, the legacy of Hephaestus is everywhere. In the spark of a welder's torch, in the slow turn of a potter's wheel, in the clink of tools in a workshop at twilight. Creation is still sacred. To build a bridge, to carve a statue, to repair a broken object, to forge steel that bends and does not break. These are acts of meaning. They honor the ancient idea that work is not merely labor, but a form of expression, a form of being. When we make something with our hands, we connect to a lineage older than history, a lineage of artisans, a lineage of creators, a lineage of quiet fires burning in dark places. In every craft, there is patience. In every tool, there is trust. In every finished piece, there is pride. And behind it all, somewhere in memory, stand a figure with soot on his skin and a glow in his eyes, shaping the world with calm, steady strikes of the hammer. Hephaestus. In myths, he remains a quiet god, a patient god, a god who works while others quarrel. His story is not loud. It is not full of thunder or triumph. It is full of craft. Hephaestus endures because he is not the god of perfection. He is the god of persistence, the god of resilience, the god of skill. He shows us that beauty is not born of ease, but of effort. That value comes from patience. That true power lies in creation. And when we see fire glowing in a forge or flickering in a hearth, we can imagine that somewhere, in some distant chamber beneath the earth or the sky, he still works. The hammer rises, the metal changes, the sparks drift upward, disappearing into the night. The god is not gone. He is always here, in heat, in metal, in art, in the love of making. Picture, dear listener, a quiet forge beneath the mountains of the world. The fire burns low. The coals glow soft and red. Tools rest where they have been left, their metal cooling, their edges catching the faintest glimmers of light. The air is warm, but not hot. The sound is still, except for the slow breathing of embers, rising and falling as if they were sleeping giants. In this calm space, the story of Hephaestus comes together. He is the god of fire, but not the fire that destroys, the fire that creates. He is the god of metal, but not the metal that harms, the metal that protects, that adorns, that endures. He is the god of work, quiet work, patient work, work that is done not for glory, but for joy. He is imperfect, and from that imperfection, he becomes whole. He is cast out, and from that rejection, he finds belonging. He is wounded, and from that wound, he shapes wonder. The myths of Olympus are filled with thunder and lightning, with wars and feasts and quarreling gods. But Hephaestus stands in a place apart. He listens more than he speaks. He works more than he fights. He creates more than he destroys. His forge is not loud. It beats like a heart. Hammer, fire, breath, again and again and again. The centuries pass, and his story lingers. Hephaestus endures because he reminds us of something true, that beauty does not appear suddenly, that strength is not always loud. That value is born of patience. In every age, there are artisans, there are makers, there are people who shape wood and metal and clay and stone, whose hands remember ancient rhythms, whose eyes see possibility where others see only raw material. They stand at their benches. They lift their tools. They work. And in that work, the god is present, not as a figure of myth, but as an idea, a whisper, a lineage. Hephaestus endures because creation is eternal, because the world is always being made, because every spark that rises from a forge, every glint of light on a polished surface, every object shaped with love and skill carries something of his spirit. He endures because fire endures. He endures because craft endures. He endures because stories endure. And so, in the quiet hours of night, when the mind wanders and the body grows still, he stands beside us, not in marble or gold, but in memory. The forge glows, the metal waits, the hammer lifts, and in that moment, we remember the God who fell became the God who forged. The God who was cast aside became the God who created wonders. The God who was imperfect became a symbol of mastery. Hephaestus endures because creation endures. And because creation is beautiful, he is beautiful too. And now, dear listener, our journey comes to a close. The fire grows dim. The workshop rests. The long halls of Olympus fade into the mist of sleep. You have walked through ancient places. You have seen shining metal and quiet fire. You have followed a God who forged his own destiny with steady hands. The story continues, as stories always do. In every spark, in every tool, in every act of making. But for now, the night is deep. The world is calm. The forge is quiet. Rest well. Sleep deeply. Good night.